Hello to all. We are going to speak about the cell membrane. Our first lecture is rounding about the cell membrane structure. The cell membrane structure, in fact, is usually about two layers of phospholipids, and for this reason, it is called phosphobilayer membrane. The cells of the body is enveloped by cell membrane. Cell membrane consists of two layers of phospholipids and also some of proteins and carbohydrates. We are going to see the structure of the cell membrane. Let's suppose together that this is a cell. So the cell is surrounded by cell membrane, which consists of two layers. These two layers, as you see here, are about phospholipids. Phospholipids within what? With some of specific proteins dispersing among them. In addition to the proteins, there are also what is called the carbohydrate of the cell membrane, or the glycocalyx. The glycocalyx, of course, are about the carbohydrate of the cell membrane. So what about these two layers of phospholipids? In fact, each one layer of this, let's magnify this part. Let's magnify it. So we are going to see that each one layer of these two layers consists of phospholipids. The phospholipids will arrange by this arrangement. Why is that? These spots, let's suppose that these spots are about the phosphate end of the phospholipid layer. And these tails are about the fatty acids. So the phosphate can attract to the water. So they are called hydrophilic end. While these tails or the fatty acids are dispelled from water and called hydrophobic. While here, hydrophilic So you can see, if this layer, for example, is taken, the arrangement of phospholipids take this form, like that. Here are the phosphate ends which face the extracellular water here, while these ends, the hydrophobic ends, dispelled or counterpart the water, And the same is true for the second phospholipid layer. The phosphate ends will face the inside of the cell, the water inside the cell. And the fatty acid will be expelled from water, which is hydrophobic. So the cell membrane in another diagram will take this form. So these are the two phospholipid layers of cell membrane, and here we can see the proteins. The proteins are of two types. The proteins which are on the surface, on the outer surface of cell membrane, are called surface proteins. While you can see here the proteins that disperse or travel along the two layers of the cell membrane are called the integral proteins. What are the functions of the surface or integral proteins? These proteins, specifically, the surface proteins act as a site for hormones binding, drugs bindings, and other, while the integral proteins usually act as pores or protein channels or carriers. Some substances, focus with me here, some substances cannot pass from outside to inside of the cell because of their nature, because for example they are hydrophobic. So how can they enter to the cell? By the help of these integral proteins, and we are called them specific carrier proteins that can carry specific substances to inside of the cell. We have spoken also about the glycocalyx. Glycocalyx are the carbohydrate of the cell membrane. Carbohydrate can be seen on outer surface of cell membrane and sometimes in attachment with the proteins, and they can act as a target site for hormones, for example insulin hormone, and also they can be representing the immunity role of the cell itself. That's all today for the general structure of the cell membrane. Thank you for your listening.